Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about something that might completely change how you think about that protein shake you have after every workout. What if I told you that most of the protein you're so carefully chugging down, well, it isn't actually building muscle? Let's get right into it.
So let's just start with this number, 83%. Yeah, research shows that up to 83% of the protein in a typical whey shake is not actually used by your body to build new muscle. That is a huge amount of what you think is fuel that's, well, it's becoming something else entirely.
So you're probably asking, okay, if it's not building muscle, where is all that protein going? It's a great question, and it gets right to the heart of this massive inefficiency problem. It doesn't just disappear, you know. Your body has to process it, and I think you're going to be surprised by where it actually ends up.
Okay, let's really break down this 83% waste problem. We're going to look at the science behind it and figure out why so much of that expensive powder you're buying isn't really doing the job you hired it for. Here's the first thing you absolutely have to understand. Your body can't just take protein powder and, stick it onto your muscles. It doesn't work that way. Protein first has to be broken down into its little building blocks, and those building blocks are called amino acids. It's the amino acids that do all the heavy lifting for muscle repair and growth.
And this brings us to probably the single most important idea in this whole discussion, the huge difference between what your body absorbs and what it actually uses. They are not the same thing.
And there's actually a scientific term for this. It's called Net Nitrogen Utilization, or NNU for short. You can just think of NNU as an efficiency score for any protein. It tells you exactly what percentage of the amino acids you consumed are actually being put to work to build new protein in your body. So obviously, the higher the NNU score, the less waste.
And this right here perfectly explains the problem. See, a lot of protein companies brag that their product is highly absorbed. And you know what? They're not lying. The amino acids do make it into your bloodstream. But that's only step one. Getting the building materials delivered to the construction site is not the same as actually building the house. Utilization is where the real work gets done, and this is where the data shows that most common proteins completely fall flat.
So what happens to all those extra amino acids that your body can't use? Well, they get sent over to your liver for processing. The liver strips off the nitrogen part, which becomes a waste product like urea. But the rest of it, that leftover carbon skeleton, gets converted directly into glucose. Yep, sugar, or it gets stored as body fat. So that zero-carb protein shake you're drinking actually has a hidden metabolic price tag. All right, so let's see how different popular protein sources actually compare. We're going to put them all head-to-head using their NNU score. And I gotta say, the results are pretty eye-opening.
Okay, here it is. Look at this. Whey and soy protein come in at a measly 17% utilization. That's our 83% waste figure right there. But look, even good whole foods like meat and fish are only at 32%. And whole eggs, which are often called the perfect protein, still only hit 48%. That means over half of the protein from eggs is still turning into sugar or waste.
And then there are branched-chain amino acids, BCAAs. They're everywhere, they're incredibly popular. But when you take them by themselves, their NNU score for building new protein is a shocking 1%. I'm not kidding, 1. That means 99% of it is effectively junk. So why is it so ridiculously low? Well, this analogy explains it perfectly. Taking BCAAs alone is like flipping on a light switch in a room with no electricity. See, BCAAs are great at sending the signal to your body to start building muscle. But here's the catch. To actually build that muscle, your body needs all 8 essential amino acids. BCAAs only give you 3 of them. You're basically yelling go, but you haven't delivered any of the tools or materials.
To really make this whole idea click, let's use a super simple analogy. Let's talk about building a car. Because it's not just about having a pile of parts, it's about having all the right parts and in the right amounts.
Just like building a car, building new muscle is a really specific assembly process. Your body is the factory, and for the assembly line to run, it needs a precise inventory of all 8 essential amino acids. If you're missing even one, the whole production line just shuts down.
So just imagine, to build one complete car, you need this exact list. 1 chassis, 1 engine, 4 wheels, and 1 steering wheel. You can't just have a bunch of wheels and call it a day.
Now, let's imagine your BCAA supplement is the parts delivery truck. It shows up with an imbalanced supply. It drops off 100 wheels and 100 chassis, but only 1 engine. How many complete cars can you possibly build? Just 1.
All those other 99 wheels and chassis, they're just leftover scrap metal that the factory now has to get rid of. And that is exactly what's happening with inefficient protein in your body.
So it all comes down to this simple question. If your body's muscle-building factory requires 8 specific and essential parts to do its job, what on earth do you think happens when you only give it the 3 found in BCAAs? You get a whole lot of waste.
Okay, so if the whole problem is having the wrong ratio of parts, then what's the solution? Well, the research points to a formula that was literally designed for maximum utilization.
The answer is a formula that achieves a 99% net nitrogen utilization rate. Just think about that for a second. 99%. Compare that to the 17% from whey or the 1% from BCAAs. We're talking about a world of difference here. This means that pretty much every single gram is being used to build new protein, with almost nothing left over.
So how is that even possible? It really boils down to 3 things. First, it provides all 8 essential amino acids in the exact ratio that the human body requires. It's like having the perfect car kit. Second, it's already broken down, so it gets absorbed super fast. We're talking into your bloodstream in about 23 minutes. And third, because it's so perfectly used, it creates practically 0 nitrogen waste and adds almost no calories from unused parts turning into sugar.
This all leads to a very blunt but very powerful takeaway from all this research. Stop wasting money on expensive urine. It's as simple as that. The message is, invest in a protein source that your body actually uses to build and repair itself, not one that it just flushes away.
And that really leaves us with one last question you should ask yourself. The next time you go to mix up your protein shake, just think, is this actually building the muscle I'm working so hard for in the gym? Or is most of it just making a pit stop at my liver before becoming sugar? The answer, as we've seen, is all about utilization.